Alright, I figured I'd finally talk about the mythical Green Arrow hood. This has been a topic among the community for quite some time. In fact, I believe all the way back before the release of Injustice 2, which is pretty crazy to think about. People have been expecting a Green Arrow hood, and you would think the reason for that is that, well, the character typically is wearing his hood. In a large majority of the source material, Green Arrow in general is rocking that traditional hood, and you would expect that in a highly customizable game like Injustice 2, that he would at least have that option. But I don't think that's the main reason the community is complaining about it. The main reason the community is complaining about it is, or the reason they're so hopeful for it, or so demanding for it, depending on how exactly you want to perceive all of that information, is actually because Tyler Lansdowne went ahead and decided to confirm on livestream that the Green Arrow hood would be in the game, and come launch time, there was in fact no hood. He was put in a really awkward position after that. However, according to Tyler Lansdowne himself, he has managed to put the team at work on the hood. I don't know what he means by that. I don't know if it's just one person or if it's multiple people working on the hood or what. Obviously, a hood is a little bit more difficult to create than a normal piece of gear because it needs its own physics. It needs specific physics for that character. A lot of the gear in the game is generally based off of other gear in the game, like different helmets are kind of the same with additional things on top of it. So the hood is like a brand new piece of thing that they would need to work on. So they don't have like a template for it. They need to make sure it doesn't clip with any other pieces of gear for that character. Side note, just for people who don't know, clipping is a term used to explain two different objects existing in the same place as each other. So obviously you want to avoid this in your game because objects just don't exist together in the same place in space in real life at all, because that's just not how physics works. If you want an example of bad clipping, you see this a lot in the wrestling games and a lot of sports games actually in general, because they have to put a lot of models in their game and they have to be very quick about it and they all have to mesh with all the different clothing and things like that. So you see a lot of big clipping issues with those games. So it's pretty impressive that NetherRealm has managed to make a customizable gear system without any clipping issues. And I think that's something they probably strive to continue to want to do. Like, they don't want to just rush and put the hood in the game and then have it be like the only item in the game that clips. Despite all that, there's still a reason to be complaining, because I mean, it's 2018 and there's still no hood. The ride for Injustice 2 is almost over, and I'm actually going to talk about that in tomorrow's video, but TMNT is the final character, and one would assume after that we're probably not going to get any more content updates. We might get some type of big balance patch that might come along with some type of complete edition similar to MKXL, but past that, after TMNT, I don't think we're actually going to get much at all. Or will we? When exactly could this hood come? The way I see it, we have 4 different options. Option number 1 is that the hood could come in some type of special promotion, perhaps maybe a Roy Harper premiere skin that could release around the same time as some type of special edition, again, like a MKXL type thing. Option number 2 is that they could just add it to the game during the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles patch. Option number 3 is that they could just randomly add it on some random balance patch. Option 4, there's going to be a large gear update. Perhaps this could come around the same time as like a complete additional something, or just sometime after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And when I say larger gear update, I don't mean just the hood. I mean like a large, like more gear, maybe even like an entirely new box full of different types of gear that you can get. All of these options here kind of explain why you wouldn't see the hood straight away, even if the hood's already done. Any of these options is possible, in all honesty. Ideally, I would like to see the larger gear update, or maybe the Roy Harper premiere skin idea that I had. I think the most likely option, however, is probably just like the random patch thing, or sometime after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they'll just randomly throw it in the boxes. The reason I brought up the Roy Harper premiere skin, or the Red Arrow premiere skin, well, actually, I'll just walk you through the logic, is because in the game right now, it would be really strange to just add Green Arrow's hood to the game, because how would you go ahead and do that? Would you just throw it in the mother box? Or would you just give it to everybody? Or would you make it a multiverse thing? The reason you don't want to do majority of these things, specifically the mother box thing, is that there's a ton of people out there who've wanted this hood for a very long time and would not be able to get it, because they would open up a ton of boxes and they still wouldn't get it, and it would feel really bad because this is an item that was promised to us. This brought me to my Red Arrow, or Arsenal, or whatever you want to call it, Roy Harper premiere skin theory, because I could imagine a scenario where they sell a Roy Harper premiere skin that has the hood built into it as a part of, or a similar hood built into it as a part of the premiere skin, and then also come along with an epic hood for Oliver Queen. The problem with this idea is that there's a ton of people in the community that would be very upset about this, because it's kind of quote-unquote pay to win, in the sense that you can theoretically pay for an epic hood. One way to get around this would be to have the epic hood actually have no stats on it at all, or any special effect or anything like that, and that way if you did want to have stats on it, you would have to like transform it. I don't know exactly how that system works because I actually haven't used it. Even if it was like that, or even if it was the only purchasable item in the game, or even if it was also in the mother boxes, and even though ranked and competitive both have gear disabled by default, some portions of the community would still be very upset that this leads down the road of potentially pay-to-win systems, which in some respects is perfectly understandable, but I don't think it's a big deal, and that's how I would do it. I think that would be a fantastic scenario. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen, but that's pretty much all I have to say about the hood. There's so many different ways they can add this to the game. Here is my prediction. I think that this will come with some type of larger gear update. I'm not sure what type of gear is going to be added to the game. Now, why do I think it's going to come with a larger gear update? Well, I think that there was actually a plan to do a lot of gear updates throughout the entirety of Injustice 2. However, they probably ran into some behind-the-scenes stuff that made that very difficult. How do you monetize it? How do you make people want to do this? Also, they probably ran into time constraint problems with a lot of the extra gear they wanted to do. The reason I think they intended to do a lot of gear updates is because if you go back to some of the early interviews after the game was released, I think it was at some type of tournament or whatever, and there was a bunch of people cosplaying as certain characters, and Tyler Lansdowne himself said, we're always looking for more gear to add to the game. So back then it sounded like they wanted to do more patches, and there's been other types of teasers like that. There was an old promotional picture of Batman wearing gear that has never been seen. It's not in the game. It wasn't in the beta. It wasn't in any early footage of the game. It was actual promotion art of gear that's currently not in the game at all. I won't be able to find it for this video, but it does exist, I promise. So it does raise the question of what happened to all that extra gear that was theoretically going to show up in the game. And what I think happened is that they ran out of time with a lot of the updates they wanted to do. And instead of doing, tiny updates here and there where they add more stuff to the mother boxes, I think we're going to get a large content update or a large gear update after the release of TMNT that's going to come for maybe every character on the main roster, maybe just some characters. I don't know, but I do think we will get a lot more gear than they're letting on, and I think that would be an awesome way to kind of satisfy us before MK11, because we have to wait quite some time before MK11, so giving us some type of content, even though it's not a DLC character, it would be a big deal for us passionate fans in the community who would love to continue to play the game and have something to strive for. So more gear in the game, more boxes, is obviously something really cool for us fans. Also, it just gives us more stuff to do. It's always better to have more stuff to do. Those are my thoughts on the Green Arrow hood. If you're new around here, think about subscribing, because I release daily content, or at least I try to. And it's very rare that I slip up on that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. My name has been Bilbzy, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.